Hopefully it doesn't fall over. All right. Make sure this thing is right. That's better. Hi, Hannah. Thank you. Thank you for the blue heart. All righty. Okay. I have my cord. All right. Let me get this comment set up. The comment that came in earlier, it was really good. She had a lot of really good questions in her comment. So I will be reading that. All right. I hope you all had a great day. This week has been kind of long. And we're already going for Friday. So we'll see how that goes. I'm glad for the weekend, though, because it'll be a nice, long 3-day weekend. I will be excited for that. But no rest for the wicked. I still have a lot of stuff to do over the weekend, but that's okay. Do you think glasses would help with eye strain and tiredness, or constant reading is something that you get used to? Well, if you're staring at the screen, yeah, it'll bother you, but I'll talk about that in the in the video. I'll talk about that. Hi Yvette. Hi Ashley. Thank you Yvette for the blue hearts. I like that people are bringing on the blue hearts. All right, so since we have a little bit of an audience now, hi Edel. I hope you're feeling better. I guess I'll go ahead and get started. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Tonight I am talking about considering changing into the medical coding career field later in life. If you are, this episode is for you. I did get a comment today from a viewer, and she was asking, is it too late for her? So I'm gonna go ahead and get into that right now. But I hope that you'll subscribe, hit that like button while you're here, and let us begin. Okay, so her comment is, hello Blue, I am glad I found you. I have somewhat of a general question. I'm thinking about changing career fields. My origins are in medical assisting, ortho, of course, I have to give a shout out for the ortho side. Ortho, radiology, hygiene, etc. 15 or so years ago. I am currently working in the automotive industry, long story, but would like to switch back into medical with the opportunity to work from home. I am about to turn 40 and was wondering if medical coding is a lot to take on considering age and the length of study certification. Your thoughts? All right, who better to ask than me, right? Here's the thing. When it comes to your age, if you're about to turn 40, you're in your 30s. Didn't you know that 40 is the new 30? A lot of people will enter into medical coding later in life. They will. And they're very successful at it. I have seen people in their late 30s. I have seen people in their 40s. I have seen people in their 50s. And I went to school and knew a lady when I graduated who was 61. Got her certification and she is still a medical coder today. I've been a medical coder since 2008. So you do the math. If it worked for her, it really all depends on the individual. I will say this, when it comes to becoming a medical coder and being a medical coder, it's not easy, but that's the fun of it, is that it is not easy. It gives you something to work towards. It gives you something to give you that intellectual stimulation, because of the simple fact that we always have to study. Is it a lot of studying? Of course it is. But just because you're almost 40 does not mean that you're over the hill and that you can't study. Obviously, you know, doing this, yes, you're going to constantly study. I still study, even still today. I make it a point to study anywhere between 10 and 20 hours a week still. And this is on top of my full-time job, my full-time 40-hour-a-week job, and my YouTube channel, my Patreon channel, tutoring that I do, resume reviews that I do, and all the other things that I do. I still manage to squeeze in time, because the more educated you are, the better off you are, because that's the only way you're going to be able to understand. The main thing that I say on my channel is we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. This is really true, because when you're looking at this documentation and you have to decipher everything that it's saying, and it's using these big complicated words, yeah, we didn't go to medical school, but it doesn't mean that it should stop us from understanding our specialty or our field. So if you're wanting to do this, the thing that you have to be is a studier. You have to know that when you're getting into this, you have to study. And when you first graduate, when you finish your program and you get you pass your certification exam, and then you get out there and you start applying, you are going to run into some resistance. That is a horrible thing about this career field, is that in the beginning, it puts people through the ringer. And I'm not saying this to discourage you. I'm telling you this so that you know up front what to expect. In the beginning, to get into the medical coding field, it is difficult, but it's not impossible. I did it, and hundreds of thousands of others have done it as well. You have to have a good attitude, you have to have a really good resume and a really good cover letter, and you have to be persistent. That is the one thing, that this field is for people who are persistent and who will not stop until they get what they want, which is a job, and to really understand and get motivated and know, and then you start educating providers and you start doing a lot of fun things. At least I think educating providers is fun. But that's just me, you know. But anyway, when it comes to if you should or not, yes, you are going to be studying, but it's up to you. If that's what you want to do, I recommend it, but then I'm biased. I'm biased in the fact that I love what I do. I enjoy talking about medical coding. I don't feel like I'm working anymore, because I had my aha moment when I finally understood. And it's funny, the second that I had that aha moment was when I started to work harder. So just because you feel like you're not working anymore doesn't mean you literally don't feel like you're working. I know I'm working, because as soon as I hit that door sometimes, when I come in, I'm exhausted. Today I am exhausted. I've been exhausted for the last 2 days, because I have been doing nothing but catching up on training at work and working through audits. And audits where I'm having to defend my codes and to defend my thought process and what I was thinking the time that I was doing that, and having to go through it with somebody who is equally as defensive in their code selections and in their thought process. So that takes a lot out of me. On top of that, I am preparing for a class that I'm going to be doing tomorrow for my providers, who I haven't been able to get in front of them in a minute, but I finally did manage to finagle my way into getting some time with them, which I'm very excited about. But I'm having to do all of this juggling for the last couple of days. But that's the life of a coder. That's what coders do. And you have to be ready to be on, and you have to be ready to get where you need to go by being flexible. You have to be flexible. Now, the comment that the lady had said was that she's about to turn 40, and that she's wondering about medical coding and age, and then she wanted to switch because was it her? that was asking about doing this from home? Yes. Yes, she wants to work from home. In the beginning, as a medical coder, you are going to want to spend time working in the facility. I will say that, okay? Whatever you may think that this is, or whatever people are telling you that this is, oh yeah, you can work from home. That's one of their favorite selling points, these schools that are selling the business of medical coding, right? They will sell this dream. And that's what happens with this field, because if you tell people actually what this is, you're going to have to study. You're going to have a hard time getting in the beginning if you're not persistent. There's going to be a lot of things that you don't understand. That's going to discourage a lot of people. So let's bring them in with the fun stuff, the flashy, glamorous stuff, which is, do you know you can work from home? COVID changed a lot of the landscape with how brand new coders are getting hired. Because before, you had to have 3 to 5 years of experience before you could work at home. Period. And if you didn't have that, they wouldn't even look at you. Now they will consider people, because some facilities are facilities are doing hybrid schedules where they have the people there at the facility for a couple of days and then they send them home, and then they're working at home and then they come in a couple of days. Whatever the case may be for your facility, that's what they're doing right now to try to keep everybody protected. But when it comes to coding from home and you're brand new, if you haven't had time to be around veteran coders and to get that training, get that one-on-one, well, Blue, I passed my certification exam, I should be okay. Book coding and real world coding are two different things. You never want to get hung up on, well, you know, I can do this in the book, I can certainly do it out in the field. You can, but keep in mind that providers are not going to document the same way as these books. These books are going to be more in detail, and they're going to give a lot more of the things that they need. I mean, it's going to be textbook. When you're in the field, oh yeah, you're going to have to start learning quickly about your providers and the way that they document, because otherwise you're going to be lost in the sauce. So I always tell brand new coders, don't think about working at home right away. Think about being at a facility, spend some time there, learn, and then go home. Because if you are so focused on getting work at home first, you are going to run into a lot more resistance than somebody who is willing to work at the facility for a little while and then transition home. It doesn't necessarily mean just because you get hired on at a place that you have to go that everybody's going to be there. A lot of times, right now, we don't know what's happening with certain facilities. Certain facilities are sending their coders home. With us, you have the option. We had the option of going home or staying in the facility. And I have to stay at the facility because I have issues with my internet at home. So, I mean, because of that, you know, I'm there. But I would still be there anyway. I would still be at the facility anyway, because of the simple fact that I worked at home. I've done work at home before. I worked for a level 1 trauma hospital before, many years ago, doing surgery coding. And while that was great, it was what I did, not when I was at work. You know what I'm saying? So I still had a place to be out, and that was something that I did, you know, on my other time. But to be at home all the time, constantly, I did that for 5 months when the pandemic kicked off. And no, I don't ever want to do something like that again. Never. It was misery. And for me, that I'm very hands-on with my providers, that's what I do. And so I know you don't kind of understand that because it just sounds great to work at home. But if you've ever worked at home, you know how it gets very quiet and it can be lonely. And not only that, you know, there's a lot of stay-at-home parents that think, okay, well, this will be great. I won't have to pay for daycare. Well, depending on the age of your child and how they're able to take care of themselves, this is not a business where you can start and stop, because you are held to production standards when you're working from home. And when you're working from home, a lot of times those standards are going to be a lot higher than when you're at the facility, because they're going to expect you to not have any distractions. You don't have any distractions, you should be able to produce a lot more than somebody who's working at the facility. So think about that. And not only that, there's ways of them watching what you're doing. Even though you're not at the facility, they have technical ways of watching what you're doing. And so you can't just start and stop. And not only that, when you're getting into the records and coding, you have to be able to concentrate. There are times at work when I do have to close the door and lock it so that nobody comes in and I can just focus on what I'm doing. When it comes to the audits and how I had to go through those, oh yeah, that I had to focus on. It was just like, okay, I need quiet because I need to be able to formulate this argument, and I've got to find my resources and my references, and that takes concentration. And I'm at the facility and I had to do that. So that's something to be aware of when you are getting into this, or if you're considering it. Don't look at your age as a hindrance. Oh, well, I'm gonna be 40. That's not over the hill, okay? Oh, I'm 52. I don't know if I should do this. If you are a studier and that's what you want to do, go for it. Well, do you think people are gonna hire me at my age? There's people who start all the time, different ages. Disabilities doesn't matter. That's why they have laws to protect age and disability. So there's tons of positions that are open for people. I mean, it's not discriminatory because it can't be, right? You're sitting there and you're reading. So as long as you are qualified, you absolutely can apply for those positions. But I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you and how you handle yourself when you are out there applying and being persistent and showing all of your skills on your resume. Because a lot of times people will send me their resumes when we're doing a resume review, and they will say, well, I have my resume, here it is. And I'm looking at it like, where are your skills? Well, I've never worked as a medical coder before. I understand that, but you went to school, didn't you? Yeah. Well, what did they teach you? Well, and then when you look in the job listings, it'll tell you what the employer is looking for. People have asked me all the time, upset, mad, what do these employers want? They want is right there on their job listing. Somebody who's proficient in medical terminology, anatomy, and pathophysiology. Somebody who understands and knows ICD-10-CM, CPT, and HCPCS. Sometimes they're asking for experience. When they ask for experience, you still have to apply anyway. Because if you're looking for those entry-level positions, you're never going to find them. They do not exist. They do exist, but they don't exist on the regular, okay? Those are going to be people who are willing to take a chance on brand new people. But the thing about getting hired as a brand new medical coder is this. Even though they're asking for experience, you don't have bad habits for them to unbreak. You are brand new and you're newly trained. Who better to get in there and start working? Because you're fresh on the guidelines. Whereas veteran coders sometimes forget those things, or they get so complacent in the facility that they came from that it's hard for them to break those habits. So you have a lot more skill and a lot more things to offer than you're really giving yourself credit for. So that would be what I have to say about that. Hi Isabel, thank you for the blue hearts. Hi Con, hi Floor, hi Ellie, thank you for the blue heart. Hi Christina, hi Letitia, hi Jerry. Ellie, I'm 40 plus and I just started this course. There you go. Hi Rain and Sabrina. I'm 46. I was 46 and went back to school to become a medical coder. There you go. So people get into this. This is a really weird and unique field, right? Because people get into it all the time at different ages. And had I known about medical coding when I was in high school, I would have literally done this out of high school. But I didn't know about medical coding. I didn't know until I was in my late 20s. And so that's how, when I got into it, I was in my late 20s already. So it's not just a matter of, oh, I'm about to be 40. You're not 100. You could still do it. So that's what I would say. My name is BLEU. Thank you. Thank you for the blue heart, though. Rain. I took my CRC test on the 28th and just found out I passed it. Cool. So I have to have my coffee in the evening. If you're interested in this field, I would tell you to please do your research. There's a lot of people out there that are going to say different things. They're going to be selling you the field and telling you all the wonderful things. but I'm here to tell you this is the real truth because I have nothing to sell you. So because I have nothing to sell you, my opinion is my opinion. This is what I've been through. Did I have a hard time getting a job in the beginning? Yes. But I went through a temporary agency, and that's always an alternative that a lot of people don't think about when they are starting out as brand new medical coders, because the more assignments you go on for coding or in the medical records department or in billing, the more filled out your resume will be. So that is something that you can do to kind of help you to get that experience and to get that exposure. That's the thing. You want to do that. And everything that you do and how you react and how you carry yourself in this field is going to follow you, because for as many thousands of coders as there are, it's still a very small community. And there's about 5 degrees of separation. Some instances are about 10 degrees of separation. But yes, I was so shocked at the amount of people that when I first started my channel knew somebody who knew somebody else who I knew. And now it's the opposite. They'll say, oh, I know so-and-so, and so-and-so knows you, and so they told me about your channel, and now here I am. So it's like, oh, okay. Or I worked with so-and-so for many years, and they said they knew you, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, the field starts to get smaller and smaller. So if you're on LinkedIn, and I'm on LinkedIn, just so you guys know, Medical Coding with Bleu. Bleu is BLEU. There's people who get on LinkedIn and they're coders, and I see them, and I feel bad for them because they're struggling and they get frustrated and they say, well, why won't anybody give me a chance? And then of course you have people on there who will encourage them and who will tell them to just keep applying. And I know that's kind of not what they want to hear, but at the same time it's what you have to be told, because you need to apply. When you are out there and you're getting told no, you just have to keep going, because that's what I did. And so if you are willing to go through all of that and you're willing to take on that challenge, it rewards you. It rewards you. It rewards you. It rewards you. If you are willing to devote your learning time to it. You don't have to devote all these hours to it, but you do have to devote some time to learning it still, even after you complete your program. And don't try to go through those quick programs. Just another note. I always tell people 9 months, 12 months, 18 months. Start off with the certification, especially if you are not really sure if this is what you want to do. Don't invest degree type money into something that you don't know. If you get your certification, get your job, and then get out there and start working, and then you think, you know, I want to be an educator, I want to be a leader, then go back to school. Get that degree. But until then, start off with your certification. Certifications and degrees in this field. Certifications hold just as much weight a lot of times as the degrees, because the degrees are designated for, like, that is if you want to do education, you want to be an educator, you want to be a supervisor, you want to be a lead coder, you want to be a department head. That is what the degree designations are for. They don't typically do a lot of the coding. Now the RHITs, they do a lot of the auditing and stuff like that, yes. But the core curriculum of the degree programs is going to be on the managerial or the statistical side of the house. That's what their focus is. That's why you'll see a lot of times these employers are asking even the degree holders to have a certification in addition to their degree as well. So, something to know. Rain is 55. So it's never too late, guys. Never too late. Wanted to thank you for all that you do to share with us. Your info has helped a lot. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Hi, Britt. My class starts on the 6th of September. What should I pack in my school bag? What are must-haves? Sabrina says, I wish I had known that when I went back to school to become a medical coder. I went to school where you get your certification for medical coder in 6 months. Then for people who are going through a 6-month program, I always recommend to continue to study even more, because your program is so condensed. To try to pick all this stuff up in 6 months is really fast. And people who have written me have said, well, Blue, I feel like my program taught me how to just pass the certification exam. A lot of times, yeah. I mean, when you're going through that fast, that is what it is about. So study more on your own. Make sure that you're using those resources that I've talked about many times on my channel about learning other things and going to these other websites that will help you to better understand medical coding. At least that's just my advice. Anyway, guys, I did have a question from wonderful Hannah. She says, do you think glasses will help with eye strain and tiredness, or is constant reading something that you get used to? When it comes to the reading part, yes, we read all day long. That is what we do. 95% of our day is reading, and we are looking at a screen. Now, there's some people that use those blue light glasses. Some people change the thing in their computer so that it's blue light. It doesn't give you the blue light all the time. And we're constantly looking at our phones. It also exposes us if you don't turn off that blue light filter or turn it on or whatever. And so what I tell people is make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Don't stare at the screen, and it gets easy to do that, that you stare at the screen. You have to make sure that you look away, look up, look to the side. That's why a lot of times you guys see me when I'm speaking, even looking into the camera, you will see me occasionally look off or look up or look this way or that way, because that's me and what I do now. I don't focus my eyes so much, so that way I get rest and I move them around. And when I feel like I'm starting to get tired, I will get up and walk around and do that, and then come right back to doing whatever I was doing. I don't just sit there and stare. You will get used to it after a while. But I think what helps me too is that I mix my learning materials. I don't just stare at the screen all day. I don't use apps for medical terminology and all this good stuff. I actually look at physical books. And because of that, I think that kind of helps me to like break from looking at the light and staring at this and staring at that. But taking care of yourself goes a long way. And you will get used to reading. Sometimes you have to take a break. You have to take a break. If you wear contacts, what I do, because I wear contacts, I have to take them out and I have to put in my glasses. But because so many of my viewers love the contacts, that's why I leave them on. Otherwise, I will hear it later. Blue. So I leave my contacts in, but a lot of times as soon as I come in, I'm taking them out and putting my glasses on, because it gives my eyes a rest, and then I'm able to rest my eyes and it's not so bad. So, but you get used to it after a while. There's things that you will get disciplined with. I'll just say it like that. I'll come back to your question, Britt. Let's see. Ray says, that is very true. I took my class through AAPC, so 4 months. Thank you, Ashley. I'm glad you like it. Christina, yes, absolutely. Pencils, highlighters, paper. Rain says, I have a lot of medical training, and I have been to massage therapist for 18 years. I've been a massage therapist for 18 years, so I don't need a lot of the extra classes in anatomy and physiology and medical terminology. I still studied in 4 months after finishing the AAPC class. Thanks, Floor. But yeah, I mean, there's people that do that, okay? There's people that transition from being nurse or massage therapist or something else in the medical field, and so they've already had their anatomy and patho. And as I talk about eyes, my eyes do this. And so they've had that before. So that's okay. When you have background already and you're just transitioning into the coding part, then that's something that's different. But I still recommend studying, for at least that time. That's just my advice anyway, because it's a lot that you have to take on. It's the guidelines. It's the medical coding guidelines. Not only that, do you have your combination codes? Not only that, you have your pregnancy codes. And that's just the diagnosis part, right? You have your injury codes. Injury codes tend to scare a lot of people, but I love injuries because I code for orthopedics and podiatry. So injuries is my favorite. External cause codes. Then you have your neoplasm codes. You have your toxins and all that other stuff, your T codes. Yeah, you have those. Then you have your history codes. You have your Z codes. You have your reasons for encounter codes. And then you have infections, and you have your all the different specialties. You have all of those, and that's just the diagnosis part. Now let's bring on the big boy, the CPT book, the current procedural terminology. That's all the outpatient procedures, right? And in that book houses the evaluation and management. Evaluation and management is terrifying for some people. I tell people, don't be scared of it, because it's not anything to be scared of if you take the time to learn it. And when I learned when I learned E&M, what I did, because they told me before I started E&M, they said, Blue, people keep failing this portion of the program. Take your time and get through it. And I said, well, mess on that. I am going to make sure that I pass it. They said, because people are having a hard time, they can't pass. They cannot pass E&M. And I said, okay, so what is the problem? So when I started going through the curriculum, and it was self-paced, my program was self-paced. And so when I started going through it, it was skipping a lot of the internal parts of the book. And it was saying, okay, that's probably part of the problem. Well, I was part of a study group. Another thing too, just a little side note, be careful with the study groups. If you are around people that are not like you, oh yeah, you're going to feel that. So you want to make sure that you are around people that have the same types of goals as you. If you have the people who are the same types of goals as you, then you're going to be able to study a lot more efficiently. If you have people who are going to sit here and argue with you, well, why are you doing that? What I decided to do when I was in my group was, okay, they were telling us to do only these certain sections and then test out. Well, I went ahead and said, I'm going to read the whole book. So I literally read the entire E&M book cover to cover. Now, before you ask me, because I will get that question every single time, well, Blue, what evaluation and management book did you read? Keep in mind, it was over a decade ago, guys. So that book is very outdated, okay? And it's somewhere. It's probably in storage, but it's outdated. So I do recommend an E&M set, and it is in the description box when I update it. It is a link for the Amazon affiliate link. You don't have to click on it, but the title is there. So that way you guys can check it out anywhere that you get books. And that way you can see if that's something that will help you. But I literally read the book cover to cover. And they said, well, you don't have to do that. Why are you doing that? And I said, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to understand. And because I didn't miss any of the teaching of the book, even though it didn't make sense to me, I still read it anyway. And because of that, I passed the first time for E&M. And they were like, oh, okay, you did good. I was making really good time. I set a record for the school as fast as I got through there. Do I recommend going that fast for other people? No. I know myself, and I know that I'm a studier and I'm a reader, and that's where that was my focus. So that's what I did. There are some people that can do that, and there are some people that are going to get overwhelmed and they'll stop doing it, which is why I tell people, don't do that. Take your time and learn it, because the time for you to not know and make mistakes is when you're a student. It's not when you get out in the real world. Yes, you will make mistakes when you start in the beginning, and you will make mistakes even when you are a veteran coder. But the best time for you to stop and learn is in the beginning, okay? Learn and take your time learning. Find a mentor or find a tutor. There's a ton on LinkedIn, and I'm a tutor myself. So try to find somebody that will coach you through, all right? And that is something that you can do to help yourself. Because if you're going in one of these fast-paced programs, they may not be helping you as much as you like to be helped. I say that all the time. So, Ashley, I did massage therapy. Also, Rain, oh yes, the coding is so very different. So much to learn. Flora says, what are the codes when something is pending? You mean like an uncertain diagnosis? Ellie says, multiple diagnoses give me a hard time. Brit, okay, well, stay tuned. I'm doing E&M now. And that upside down smiley face is the perfect perfect thing for that, because it's so true, you know. When Flora says, when hey, Thank you for the blue heart. Flora says, when they have to wait for the follow-up to make sure what kind of diagnosis they actually have. Are you coding on the inpatient side or the outpatient side? If it's the outpatient side, you don't code anything that's pending. If they say could possibly be this, on the outpatient side, we code for the symptoms. We only code what's definitive. So if it's the symptoms or if it's a definitive diagnosis in the outpatient side, that's what we pick up. So if you are coding on the inpatient side, then it says, if they say we are treating for pneumonia, then you would pick up pneumonia or possible pneumonia. On the inpatient side, yes. On the outpatient side, no. You would pick up the cough and whatever else they have. The outpatient side, okay, then you pick up the symptoms. If they don't have a definitive diagnosis yet, right? They're not giving you anything yet, or they say possible or consistent with, or maybe it is this diagnosis. You do not pick up the diagnosis. You pick up the what is absolutely definitive, what we know, which would be the symptoms. Or if when they come up with an absolute diagnosis, then you give the diagnosis instead of the symptoms. All right. Okay. So for Brit's question, what are must-haves for your school bag? What Christina suggested, which is pencils, highlighters, paper, that would be great. I also recommend index cards, so that way you have something to write your notes on. You can make your notes as you're going through and doing that. I don't recommend writing all over your books, folks. I do not. And even when you are working through like the workbooks, I recommend having a notepad on the side and writing your answers. Don't write in your book, because the reason that I don't write in books is because I respect books. I'm a book lover. But when you want to go back later on and test yourself, because in the beginning when you start learning medical coding, it's not going to make sense, obviously. So you're going to have all this weird stuff on there, right? If you're writing in your books, you're going to have all these weird notes and stuff. But when you have been through your program for a while, like a few months, and then you go back and you're starting to work on those workbooks again, and you're like, now I get it. Well, now you've wrote all over your book, so you don't have a clean book to look at. As far as like what questions it can ask you, you have all your notes from before. So that's why I say don't worry about that. Don't write anything in your books. Have the little notebook on the side, and that way you can write all your answers there. And so that way your book stays nice and clean. Keep your books clean, folks. That's my advice. People want to talk about, oh, well, what about writing notes in the books? Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. Yes, you can have notes. Excessive writing is a no-go, though. I will say that. And so there's some people that will just write and write and write, and I'm telling them, like, don't do that. Because it depends on where and who you're taking your exam through. I went over this the other day. With AHIMA, they do allow for some notes, but they don't want you to put anything in there like coding clinic or any big excessive writing. Then you won't be able to use your books. So keep your books as clean as possible. That's my advice. Christina says, I'm starting E&M this weekend. Ooh, fun. Pixie says, I did a 6-week course in New York City. Could not find a job. It was for billing, though. I'm looking at a 1-year college, at a community college. I agree. E&M. You bet. Yes. I keep it clean, then you can resell it on Amazon. Oh, well, I mean, that's always the thing, too. But yes, that would be what I would recommend. Just the basics. That's all you need. If you have a medical dictionary, even a pocket one, that would be great. That might help you. But that would be like, it's not a lot, because your books is going to be the bulk of it. So mostly like notepads, like spiral notebooks, that would be great. Pens, obviously, pencils, and then your index cards and highlighters if you want highlighters. But again, I really don't recommend writing all in your books and even highlighting in your books. I don't even recommend that either, because sometimes when you highlight things, it'll change the makeup of the of the book depending upon the paper, the quality of the paper, and sometimes you can completely lose, like, and you won't be able to read it and stuff like that. So no, I don't recommend that. What about tabbing? Oh, my nemesis, the tabbing. Okay, with tabbing, I do not recommend tabbing. I know a lot of you just said, oh, Blue, are you freaking for real? Yes, I am for real. Because when I came up in my time, yes, I'm going to say that. When I came up in my time, they were very strict. AHIMA was very strict. I took the CCA exam. That was the first one I took. And they said, no tabs, no writing, no this, no that. So those books were clean, pristine, in pristine condition. I did not have tabs. Tabs will get in the way. If you are practicing with your books, like I tell you guys, practice with your books. You will get so familiar with where things are in the book that tabs will get in your way. And that's what I'm telling y'all. If y'all are going through and trying to figure out all these fancy ways to tab, I've seen books that had so many tabs on them, the person got kind of lost going through because there were so much tabs. It's not worth it. If you spend the time going through and doing the practices, and even if you're just going through each page and looking at it, you'll get so familiar that you won't even need it. Do you know how many times I've been able to go to my Cpt book and open it right to where I need to? Same thing with the diagnosis book. I don't even have to flip into the index. I can go right into the tabular and I'll go right to where I need to in that section because I'm so familiar with the book. And even when you are about to take your certification exam, and I would rather have no anxiety thinking about something that I don't need to, which is those tabs, than to put all that energy into tabbing it, and then you get to the test center and, oh yeah, your book is not going to be usable because you have these tabs on it. That's what I would rather be focused on the exam, and I can navigate through the book rather than try to sit here and mess with these tabs. People who have to tab are people who are not going through like they should. Just try it, because sometimes it's just that because people are telling them to do it. I'm telling you to try it without the tabs and see how you feel. Well, Blue, I'm a little slow. You might be a little bit slow at the beginning, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be consistent in how you're doing it, especially if you're taking the time to practice. If you're taking the time to practice, then you're not going to have to worry about that. You'll be able to be really quick because you'll get familiar with it. Just try it, guys. The worst thing that you can do is like, oh, okay, you wasted an afternoon going through the book. But if you challenge yourself, your brain is going to be like, oh, okay, we got a challenge here. So then your brain is going to start to be able to, if you've been flipping through the book, is going to be able to recall the colors. Because some of the ICD-10-CM books have colors on the edges. So that way you can start to, oh, okay, this color is associated with this chapter. This color is associated with this chapter. This color is associated with this chapter. So your brain's going to start to recall those things. It's going to be a lot quicker for you than having to sit here and mess with these tabs. That's just my advice. Hannah, I've noticed that my tabs are getting in my way. There you go. Always Boris says, have you always been so well spoken, or did you do any training? Oh my goodness. Have you seen the very beginning episodes of my channel? If you watch any of those beginning episodes of my channel, oh man. I know what I need to say, but I get nervous speaking sometimes and don't want to be dismissed by a senior coder or provider. Oh, this is actually a good idea for a whole episode, but I will say this. With speaking, I will sometimes listen to the playback, because if I'm doing pre-records, I will, like, when I'm done filming, I will stop and listen to myself. And I will listen for how many ums. If I kept saying something, sometimes I get stuck on Oh, I hate when I do that. And so I try to stop and pause before and you may see me do it too. And especially if I know that I'm tired, if I hear myself saying a lot, then I know I was tired in that video. Like the message is good, but I can hear myself say it. And I'm like, okay, so I'll know that I was tired in that video. But then I say, okay, if I know that I'm tired, then I know I need to either rest or I need to have a snack before. Because if I come in straight in from work, don't have a snack, and I'm trying to do a video real quick and upload it so that it's on time, I noticed that. However, when I stop and I'm more conscious about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, then I feel like my message gets more clearer. And there's been times when I listen to myself and I said, wow, that was really good. I didn't stutter. I didn't say, I didn't, do any weird, pause or whatever. I was able to speak all the way through. And so in those instances, okay, and it makes you more sure of yourself. Is there times when I think, I could have done a little bit better? Yeah, of course. That's always going to be you, though. If you really care about like what you're doing and what you present, your product, right? That's what you're going to do. In the beginning, was I nervous? Oh, talking to providers? Absolutely. Did I stutter? So I will tell you, my former partner, right? My former partner and I, and I saw her the other day, and when you work with a partner in coding, and we have worked together for years, when we first got to working with our providers, because we were housed away from our providers for the longest time, and then we were part of this new hospital. They built this brand new, big, beautiful new hospital. And so when we moved in, they said, okay, we're going to embed the coders into the clinics so that they can be closer to the provider, so that they can have really good communication. And as soon as I started to meet them, I got nervous. Like, I was like, oh my God, I can't speak. And so she's like, yes, you can. It's okay. And I go, I can't speak. And like, I was getting nervous and I was panicking. And I said, I can't. And she goes, Blue, I've heard you before. She goes, you've taught us. I go, but you all are my coworkers and I've known you all for years. And I said, I can't. And then she goes, okay, calm down. She goes, I'm going to speak first, and then you can speak. And if I feel like you're floundering, I'll come rescue you. So I said, okay. So I stood there and I'm like, breathe, Blue, breathe. And I've done theater arts before. I did theater arts when I was in school. And and so I had to think back to that time, like, okay, enunciate and be clear and look them in the eye. Don't look down, and make sure that you project your words clearly and correctly. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. Just take a deep breath. And so she started speaking, and she was very, oh, whatever. She had known a lot of them for years. I mean, she had been at the hospital for 10 years before I got there. So she was well aware of all the people that were there. And so this was my first time really seeing them, speaking with them, and being around them. And so when I got to speaking, I was like, okay. So I just took over on the slides, and I was reading from the slides, and I was reminding myself to speak slowly, and then make eye contact and take my time. And people are going to enjoy this presentation if I enjoy myself. So then I started to relax, and this is internal dialogue I've got going on. Trust me, I had to do that. I was like, oh my goodness. So then I started to relax. Well, when I started to relax, I started to make jokes. And so I was able to start doing that. Everybody started laughing. I started feeling a lot better, because that's what I like to do. I like to make people laugh too, And so, my partner was like, okay, you did good. And she was like giving me like the thumbs up. Well, then it was the end of the class. And so I drive a sports car. One of the doctors happened to see me coming in or parking or something. I don't know how he saw me, but he said, hey, don't you drive that? And he named some other sports car. I was like, no. And so I was telling them about my car. And so they were all like, wow, like how fast does she go and that kind of thing. So we started talking about cars. Well, I'm into cars. So that got them like, oh, she's into cars. Okay. Well, I like cars too. So they started talking about, oh, well, the Dodge Charger. I was like, okay, whatever, Dodge Charger. Although I did like the commercial for the Dodge Charger a few years ago. And so anyway, so I started talking about that. And that was how I was able to relax. Well, the more you relax and get connected with your audience, the easier it's going to get. you're going to feel those nerves and those butterflies in the beginning. Yes, it is inevitable. But practicing and reminding yourself that you do know this material, you're sharing something with them that they don't know. And they're looking to you to be that subject matter expert, whether it's a provider or another coder, because not everybody has the same experience and not everybody was taught with the same curriculum either. So because of that, I'm like, okay, I'm always down when somebody wants to share information, another coder. Show me where you got it, and I'm all ears. And when they do, I was like, okay. And it's like when you go to conference and then you're around all these other coders and they start bringing out their references and resources, it's like nerd convention. You're like, oh, because you're like, oh, now I get it. And well, I see this is the resource here. And it's people that are normally shy, but they get very excited talking about their craft. That's the way you will be when you start to allow yourself to be able to be like that. Because believe it or not, I am a very shy person. People ask me all the time, like, yeah, right, Blue. No, you talk to everybody. No, trust me. I am very shy. I get shy. I will blush. I will turn completely red. I will do that. And I've had people do that to me. There was a gentleman who did that to me. When he comes around, I get very nervous. Just his energy, just from how he is. He's a very nice man, very tall, but he makes me very nervous. And I don't know if it's because his voice is loud or what, but he just makes me nervous. And so it was an experience to be around somebody and then turn bright red. And I haven't turned bright red in a long time. And no, it wasn't that I found him attractive. It was just he made me nervous. And so he knows that I'm a coder. So I'm trying to speak coder, and I have to kind of like put myself back into my own, okay, Nerdville. And so that way I can get more confident in my speaking. But yeah, it happens. And no matter how long you are a coder, you will have this. Because keep in mind, I've been doing this for 10 plus years and I still get like that. But then there are some providers that I will go right up to them, brand new, and okay, and I'll start cracking jokes right away, and they're like, oh, okay. And so I said, well, I'm your new coder and I'm here to work with you. We're here to be partners. And so I'll start telling them all this stuff. I say, when we have some time, we're going to go ahead and go over these things. And they say, okay. And they're right on board. And so when you have somebody that's like that, you have me that's confident, that's going to them. They're like, okay, she knows what she's doing. But if you go over to them and you say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you, that would be, for me, if I was a provider, I would be very annoyed quickly. What do you want? Because why are you apologizing? Number one, don't ever apologize. If you go to a provider like that, don't ever apologize. Because you didn't do anything wrong. You should only apologize if you've done something wrong. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they have very little time for foolishness, and they have very little time for people who waste their time. Get to the point. They like it when you get to the point. The faster you get to the point, the more you cut out all this other stuff, the better. And that's what they like. So it's like, okay, you have to remember that as well. So be confident when you speak to providers and go to them with your knowledge and know that you're sharing something that they don't know. And that will help you to feel more confident, because their providers are not meant to be coders. They're meant to be providers. And you're meant to be their teammate, and you're meant to help them. You know the rules. It's your job to help them stay out of trouble and make sure that their documentation is good. And when you got that, you've got everything. I'm just saying. SS says, I noticed that I just tour my books and I appreciate taking that route. Ellie says, always bored. I like that question. I'm not good at speaking in public. I'm a quiet person. And you'll lose that. Once you start to get into the coding, you'll lose that. You have to have faith in yourself, because trust me, I didn't think I was ever going to be like that either. You know what I used to think? I used to think, they're doctors. They've been to medical school. They have all these degrees. What do they want to listen to me for? And it wasn't until I had my experience with, and I always got to bring him up because he's the one who really brought it out. I'm going to call him Dr. George. That's better. Dr. George. So Dr. George says, Blue, I'm not a coder. I said, I know you're not. He goes, you're the coder. So you're the one who understands the rules. I said, well, I just don't want to, I think that you, because I told him, I said, I'm just going to be honest with you. I really don't think that there's anything that I could tell you that would be remotely interesting. He said, you're a coder. You know the rules. And I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing if you don't help me. And that's the only way this is going to work. And so I said, okay. He goes, so don't think that you don't have anything to offer as far as like knowledge wise. He goes, yeah, I went to medical school, but you know the coding. He goes, and believe me, I need this. And so I said, okay. So he goes, so what do you see in my documentation? Do you see anything that I could do better? And I'm like, well, right now, no. And so he's like, are you sure? Because I feel like there's something like I could be doing it better. Well, then when I started to really dig into it, yeah, there was stuff that I found. And so I started to work with him. And he started to say, okay. And so he was like, we make a really good team. He was so excited about this. And he was always like, well, Blue, what about this? And what about this? And I read this. And I was like, okay, well, no, actually, it's this, this, and this. He's like, okay. But that was the turnaround for me, was Dr. George saying, okay, no, I really do need this. And had I not had that experience, of course, I don't know. I mean, if I would be as confident, but like he said, it's a team effort. So I was like, okay. And ever since then, I adopted that thought process and I got into that. I was like, okay. And that was one of the most growing experiences I've had with a provider, honestly. So that I have to give him. Other than that, but when it comes to getting that confidence, you will after a while. Don't discount yourself and don't only think that don't pigeonhole yourself into that if that's the way you are, because I'm a shy person too. Just saying. Nicole says, do you take personal messages if we are looking for advice and guidance on our specific situations? I would love to get your opinion on my specific situations, but it may be too long to type in here. My contact information is in the description box below. But if it's about like something that you can see on a video or something like that, then I'll direct you to a video that I've done. Flora says, I'm shy myself too. I hope all goes well with the internship. And Christina, I'm a shy person. So see, I'm surrounded by shy people, so y'all get it. You get it. But when you get past the nerves, because you will have the sweaty palms. I still get the sweaty palms, honestly. I get the sweaty palms. I used to hate when I would have to shake hands because I would get nervous right away. And I'm like, man, I don't want to have sweaty palms. But then after a while, I started to remind myself, okay, I can do this. And the big tall man that with a loud voice, he shook my hand, and his hands were clammy, not mine. I was totally fine, but it was that nervous energy. So, but you're welcome, Ellie. And yes, the more you talk it out, the more you get familiar with it, the more you have those experiences where you're starting to have to explain. And that's like the best way too to learn, is if you have to explain it back to somebody else. If you have to explain back anything you learn on coding, it helps you, right? So that's something that you could think about as well. I know this topic went way to the left. As far as like, okay, well, I was watching it because should I decide to do this and this later in life? This is what you're going to come across. And, I have such a wonderful audience that they're willing to share about themselves, and they're willing to share that they're in their 40s and their 50s and they're just doing this and they're just as unsure, but they're doing it anyway. And I think there's an incredible strength in that. And that is something to celebrate, because of this, you're doing it. And it's brave and it's wonderful. And especially when you get a wonderful career out of it. But if you spend so much time on the sidelines thinking, I don't know if I could do this. No, I don't want to do it. Oh, no, it's too hard. You're going to spend your life seeing stuff go right past you. And I feel lucky that I found this, right? It found me. I didn't find it, I should say. It found me. And the fact that it did, I'm very lucky. And I never felt that I couldn't do it, right? I always knew that I could do it. It's just the thing of I did it. And that's what you have to do. So that's my advice anyway. But I wish anybody that wants to get into this luck, and that it's a journey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And when you get into it, you'll understand. When you take those hits, it's not about how many times you get hit and you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get right back up. And the more you keep getting up, the stronger you're going to be. The more people tell you, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, and you still do it anyway, and you manage to pass it with flying colors, that challenge, that's going to make you stronger. I know I'm stronger. I've got a thick skin for all the years that I've been in this, all the times that I've been yelled at, all the time by coworkers and by doctors, and all the times that I have been thanked, congratulated. I owe this XYZ to you because of you. I learned this. I understand this because of you, and me because of me. And that makes the world for me. And it makes me stronger, and it makes me tougher. And so little things don't bother me. I think when we get shy and we overthink about, like, how would this person think about me, and what would this person think about me, and what will my coworkers say, I think that kind of robs us of doing things. And I think that because of that, some people stay on the sidelines. But when you get rid of that and you're like, okay, well, I really don't care. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. It's going to benefit. Who is it benefiting? What is my why? If I have a why, I have a direction. And my why is for my providers. So I do things above and beyond the call of duty, as far as like teaching them so that they can learn, and taking the time to do coding tip of the week for them, which is not in my job description, and which is actually my boss doesn't want me to do that. But I do it because it's my job. That's what I do. And because of that, they're high performing. Now, that's the things that you have to do. And when you do those things, it's so gratifying when you see that, and you see it in the numbers. You see how well they do, and then how well they perform. And then when they go to another facility, and then their coder sees them, and they're like, oh, thank you. That's amazing. And I'll do that 100 times over. But yes, so hopefully that answers all your all's questions. And this is been a lively conversation. But yes, the last couple of days, I have been doing a lot of things, so it was just easier to upload a pre-film. But anyway, it was nice to be back today and talking to you guys, because of course I always miss my audience. I like the interaction. I like, that you all share your stories. And I like that you all encourage each other. That's what I like. And thank you, Flor, who says, God bless you, Blue. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope that you'll hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss out. And share this if it helped you. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.